I'll hop on here and do another testimony here today. This time it's going to be Nancy Weaver. See if I can get her added on here real quick before you all start hopping on here. Let her hop on there, and then there we go. I see her alert coming up right now.
Hey.
Hello. There you are. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. It sounds clear. I think you got a good connection, and I got a good connection, so thank God for that. All right, how you doing today?
Good.
That's good.
Very good.
Hey, so you grew up Amish, right?
Yes.
What Amish community did you grow up in?
I was born and raised in a really strict Amish community in the state of New York, Clymer, kind of where the border of Ohio and PA, where it's just like a small Amish community, but it was a strict, very strict.
No, more of an older Amish community then.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Was you there the whole time? You grew up in that the whole time until you left then, or no?
Yes. Born and raised there until I left the Amish at 2002 and moved to Ohio. And then from Ohio, I lived there 8 years after I left the Amish, and then down to Florida, which is where I'm at now.
All right, so you're now in Florida.
Yes.
How many were in your family, brothers and sisters?
13 of us.
13. Wow.
I had 8. Oh, yes. 8 brothers and 4 sisters.
8 brothers and 4 sisters. Wow.
Yep.
Only 10 of us in our family, so that's a pretty big family. Is there anybody else in your family that has left, or is it just you?
I do have a brother that's a year younger that left. He came and searched me up a year after I had left.
Okay. Now, this thing I've been doing, obviously you've seen some of my videos. I hop on here and give all victims a voice of any kind of abuse, mental, physically, sexually abused victims. I turn them loose and let them share their story. And I've talked to you a little bit on the phone. So you were definitely sexually abused in your Amish home, correct?
Yes. Daily.
How young were you when this started?
The youngest I remember, I was 5. That's the youngest I remember. I mean, I'm not even sure how old I was when it first started, but that's what I remember from. And to me, it was like a daily thing.
Daily?
Mm-hmm.
From a brother?
Yep. For my brother, he was like 14. And he was 14, and I was, at the time, would have been 5.
Okay.
Hold on, my son's coming in.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Shh, I'll be right back. I didn't think it was going to be here until 7.
Oh.
A little early there, but yeah. Okay, I'm ready.
That's a pretty big age difference there. Him being 14 and you only being 5 and being taken advantage of you like that. Was it just the one brother, or was there multiple?
No, it was like a daily thing. It was like he had some control over me because it was like, you're so young and you have such an older brother, like you have no control. You're like a rag doll. To take advantage of me because you have no control. You could you felt so, it's hard to explain. And as I got older, the only way it stopped with him was when I was 10 years old and he got married. And after he got married, I was never so happy to see someone get married out of the family as him. Knowing I felt free, oh my gosh, it stopped. Mm-hmm. And then what happened was, after he married, I had another brother try it a few times, but now I'm older and I can fight back more. So after that, it stopped. After the other one tried, and I was a little too old for him to have his way with me by then.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to hear that you had to go through that. There's obviously one of the things that motivates me more than anything to do these videos and give the victims a voice is because I didn't realize that it was that big. When I started, it was that big of a problem. A lot of people say there's no way that could happen inside those good people. They're good people. They're Amish. And I think that's why it was able to continue as long as it has. And it's now spiraling out of control because they look like good people. They're Amish. You know, the name Amish and their religion, most people wouldn't think that would happen. So even the ones that doubt, this is a victim. This is a personal testimony. You cannot even deny that.
No.
So you would say from 5 years until what age would it finally stop then?
Oh my gosh, probably when I was older. Like I said, the other one tried, but I was older and like probably 11, 12 years old.
Wow, so that was a long time. But you're saying daily?
It was a daily thing for me. It was like I couldn't even go play with my other brothers and sisters like I wanted to, because I knew he was going to be right there and snatch me up. And even if I would be one of those kids that I would just play alone. If I play anymore, or I would hang on to somebody. And even with like, if we would all go play hide and seek, he would grab me and take me in the corner somewhere and just take advantage of me. And it was a daily thing. And the only time it wouldn't happen is if he was at work. By the time I was 5 years old and he was 14 years old, and the older you get, the older he got. So it was like and he literally just like, every time it would happen, he would look at me straight in the face and be like, do not dare say anything to anybody. This is really bad. Like, threatened me what's going to happen to me if I say anything to anybody. So I knew it was a bad thing, but I was so afraid to say anything. You were so embarrassed, and it hurt. Like, it's so deep inside, you can't even explain. You feel like everybody knows about it, and it's all over out there. They're judging you for it. You feel so filthy and just hurt and deep inside, yet you cannot say anything to anybody because it's embarrassing. You're so ashamed of it. And it's just inside. And the one time, I remember as if it was yesterday, he was doing it to me in one of my brother's rooms, and one of my older brothers and sister caught him doing it to me, and I was screaming and crying. He continued and laughed and continued like it was no big deal. And at that moment, I ran to one of my sisters and told her about it, and I'm crying to her, and she came to me and was like trying to comfort me and calm me down. And here later on, I found out he ended up sexually abusing her. He was doing it to her. And her being older knew what was going on because he was doing it to her. So she was there to support me and comfort me a little bit. So between me and her, it stayed there. Other than anybody else in the family, unless the ones that saw him do it to me, the brother that caught him doing it to me is the one that later on tried it with me when I was older.
But you would say the number one reason not to go and report that to anyone else is because of that shame and that guilt.
The shame and guilt. And you feel so embarrassed. You feel like it's your fault. Like, why me? Like, you're the only one that's getting used like this. Nobody knows about it. Yet you feel like it's just everything on you. I mean, him doing that to me at that moment, it was like taking parts of me out of me. Mm-hmm. Like, you're worthless. And nobody loves you. You feel so unloved. So it's the biggest thing is shame. I mean, you just feel the big insecurity. I still have a problem fighting with that insecurity because of that.
Yeah.
It's horrible. After so many years, I never said anything to anybody other than my sister. And I was going to her, and even later on after that, I never mentioned anything we never talked about it. Nobody ever talked about it in that family. And I sure as heck was not going to go to my family my parents and say something because of the threat and how you knew it's embarrassing, how you felt. You thought it was your fault.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what's so sad about it, because lots of times the victims They don't. I know hundreds of them now. I got a whole notebook with cases in them where people would call me about these. It's almost always a fear, shame, guilt, feeling rotten. Don't feel loved. So
Yes.
who are you going to go to? You have no hope. You have no.
If you have no, through all that time, by the time I got to my teenagers, I was hurting so bad and so miserable. The only way out of that, you see, because the Amish don't really teach you the Bible in the way I know now. And they don't really, and really, my parents didn't really explain anything, they tell you to read the Bible, but most of it was in German, and I never really understood it. But I never, was explained on where to go to escape from all this, because you're so hurt so bad, you feel trapped in your own body, to where you're just, freaking out inside. Where can I go? I can't get out of it. You had nobody to go to talk to. Nobody. And my only way was, I'm going to kill myself. I wanted to die in my teenage years, all my teenage years, because I felt like there was no other way out. Because you could not go to anybody. You felt so hurt and so unloved. It's unreal. It's unbelievable. And after I left the Amish, I was probably 23 years old, and it was back in 2002. And at the timing, I finally, I was 21 years old. I had a boyfriend, and in the Amish still. So through him, by the time I was 23, is how I got away from the Amish. And then I snuck out in the middle of the night and took off. And I was just before I even left, I was so hurting so bad. It was 2 weeks before I had left the Amish. I wanted to I would cry to God. At one point, I would just really grab my Bible and I just search, there's more to this. And I would just search and read and study my Bible. And finally, I was like, wait a minute. This says this and this and this, and the Amish believe this.
Yeah.
So I started why does the Bible say this way if you're saying believing in this way, and with these rules and all? So I went to my mom, because all of a sudden it's sinking in hey, I have questions. I want to go straight to my parents. I want answers. And so I went straight to her, and she could not even give me an answer to any of those. All she said was, Nancy, why don't you go ask the preacher? Just go on to the college. Why don't you talk to one of the pastors and ask them? I was like, Mom, you are my parent, and you want to be so strict with me. You should know what all this means.
Yep.
But they couldn't, because they didn't know themselves.
That's really sad that they want to go to every case I've ever heard of. When you want to go to the bishop and the parents, they cover it up inside the church. They don't go to law enforcement. They don't go have a court system. They don't have bail time. They let the abuser get on their knees and confess to the church and the bishop, and then the victim is stuck in that home, keep getting abused, and they have no resources for the victim. But don't you dare say anything about the abuser,
Yep. And after I had left, it was holding all that in for so many years. Okay, now I'm 23 years. And I've held that, not saying a soul all that time. Once I left, I had an aunt, which was my mom's sister, and she was born, had left the Amish 40-some years before then. So she was a born-again, saved Christian, and she just got, after I left, oh, Lord, it was days after, she asked me, we started talking. Mm-hmm. And the first time me talking about this, it was unbelievable. It was I could barely even get it out without just screaming and crying. And, excuse me. So finally she was she would just pray with me, and talk to me. And she would explain the verses to me. She would explain to me what being saved meant, if you want to get saved and da-da-da. So she even got me saved. She would pray with me every day. Through all this. If it wouldn't, I just pray to God and thank God. And now, even when I look back, if it would not have been for her and leading me to God and showing me how much love God had for me, that this was not purposely from God. God did not have me be the one get molested over there, sexually abused. Yeah. He didn't intend for me to get used like this. It's not a God thing. It's not His purpose for me to go through this. But now I can get used. I can look back And God can use me to help those that are going through the exact same thing right now.
Yeah.
So after it was like the healing part every day, it was like I couldn't even pray without screaming and crying to God to help me get this out of me. And through it all, it would hurt so bad. It was like he was pulling a string out of my heart every time.
Wow.
And as it kept going, it was like, Lord, finally, I would just take a breath and like, I'm afraid to, I don't even want to pray anymore because all I'm going to do is cry. Because it would just hurt so much. And it eased after more and more. But I just kept talking. My aunt would keep asking me, and I kept talking and talking about it. The more I talked about it, the less it hurt. And the less I kept my people telling me. She was like, I felt like my aunt was a God sent to me, like a Christian counselor to me. Yeah. She helped me every step of the way through it all. I mean, through everything, every day. If I would not have had my aunt, I don't know where I would be now. Yeah. I do not know if I wouldn't have had her.
Thank God for putting her there for you. Like you said, kind of a counselor.
Yes.
He was able to use her to encourage you to get past that point, because I would say actually 100% of victims like yourself that I've now talked to, the ones that came forward and the ones that haven't, some of them can't hop on here like you are doing a video, but all of them, I'd say 100%. At one point or another, they actually had a suicidal moment where they just wanted to wipe themselves right off the face of this earth. But you definitely had that moment as well.
Oh, my gosh, yes. I actually mentioned it a little bit to a brother, one of my younger brothers. And I was just like crying to him, like, I can't do this life anymore. I just want to kill myself. And he was like begging me, stop talking like that. But he didn't know behind it all why. Like, he had no idea why.
Yeah. Yeah, he didn't understand. He didn't understand what you were going through. He didn't see that wound that you had. That was
because they didn't know anything. It was like two brothers and the one sister, or the two sisters that actually knew anything about it, that I know of.
So were you baptized before you left, or?
I was. So after I left is kind of why they were stricter on me. I mean, immediately I'm going to hell. I didn't ever want to see me and without Amish clothes ever. I'm not welcome home. Just on and on, all that. Well, I was just like, you know what? I refuse to go your way. I have God now. I know I am saved. I know I can go to heaven. You're not convincing me that I'm going to go to hell because I am not following your rules. Yeah. And I refuse to believe in that. Because now I know God. And the more I left, it was like, wow, there is life over here. After I found God, how deep in my heart was relieved from that. It was such an amazing experience. This is how much God really loves us. Yeah. Not over here, right here in front of you. He's right there. And we can't see him because you're hurting so much. And the Amish they cannot explain to you. They cannot tell you how much God loves because they don't even know themselves. That's why I've never, day one, not once, heard my parents say, I love you. And any child wants to hear that. I never once, all my life, heard my mom or dad tell me they love me. Not once. And it was like, no matter what, I mean, today yet, I have kids now, and I just, every day, will not go without telling my kids I love you. You don't want my kids to go through what I was.
Same as my community, all old order. All Swartz and Troopers seems like the same. There's no affection. There's no I love you. There's no hug. The very first time I hugged was when I was out of the Amish and went to a church out here that was non-Amish. So, yeah, I know what you mean there. Most of the old order Amish do that. And they're so secretive. And would you agree with me that now, since you're set free in Christ, out here living in Christ and not living in bondage, we can look back and it seems so dark. It seems
my gosh. Yes. It's like nobody could pay me enough to go back in there. I could not do it. They don't even realize the freedom you have right now. It is an amazing experience according to that miserable. I look back and it's all like, I praise God is behind me. I just praise God. He kept me through that to where I am now. And I just thank God every day that I am where I'm at now. Because I probably would be dead. Yep. If I would still be there.
Yeah, the sad part is that these are the ones we know of, the ones I've been interviewing on here, the ones that wrote books. I'm going to share some of these books here in a little bit. Those are the ones we know of. Can you imagine how many we don't know of? They're trapped behind them closed doors, no voice.
The saddest thing with me is I don't try to be judgmental, but every time I see a little Amish kid, I wonder that. And I pity them. I pray for these little Amish kids right now. Because I look at one little girl and I think of right back of where I was at.
Yeah.
Right back where I was at. And what really made me speak more was when I was going through this healing process after I left, and God was dealing with that in my heart. I had a picture drawn from when I was a little Amish girl in school, and you know how they don't take pictures, but I had a picture drawn from my head from right during that timing when that was happening to me. And as I had left the Amish, this fell out on me. And right at the timing is when I was hurting so much and going through the healing thing, and as I saw that, it was like, oh my gosh, an amazing, it was just a brought back of how I could just see this hurting little girl looking at this picture. And right then and there, I was like, that is it. I'm not shutting up anymore. It's got to come out. They have everything pushed under the rug. They don't care how bad it makes me feel. It's all about how it makes them look. It's like they don't even realize how much it's hurting. But it's all about, because I even mentioned something to Mom after. I really confessed to my mom about it, and I said something to her after I had left the Amish, a few years down the road, and I started talking more. One of my mom's friends, they have English friends. And the English friends, a couple that used to always come out to our house, and they become friends and would hang out with us, never even saw anything. They never knew anything was going on. It is when somebody's there, it is so secretive. Yeah. Even English people coming to my house did not see it. Right. Did not know it. And, as I left the Amish, it was like, now I'm not shutting up. I'm going to keep talking and talking. The more I talk, the better I feel, because the lighter I feel, it's coming out, and I'm not shutting up no more. So I went to mention something. Well, my mom's friend finds out, and she messaged me, hey, I heard about your brother, da-da-da-da. She's asking me all these questions. I was like, oh, Lord, my mom's going to find out. Sure enough, it was not a week later. She found out and calls me. And she was so angry. She's just like, why are you telling people this? Your brother's a good guy. He has a wife and 11 kids, and he built a house for her. Why are you saying these lies about him? This is your fault that this happened to you. And I ended up just screaming and crying on the phone with her, to where I was like, no, you know what? And I just prayed. I hung the phone up on her, and I'm like, this is not it. I'm not believing this. She knows I had no control over what happened. Yeah. And I just prayed and prayed and prayed over her. At that moment, I realized I had a lot of anger against my mom for saying this, and now it's my fault. She's saying it's my fault. No, I had so much anger towards her, and I just sat myself down and prayed and prayed. I have never in my life prayed so much that I have through those past years. I mean, it was an everyday thing. That it was this prayer partner. My aunt was a prayer partner to me every night. Before I would go to bed every night. And she was like, so I was at that time, every time something like this happened, I would be on that phone calling my aunt. I need prayer, I need to pray with me. When I put myself in my mom's shoes, what if this would have been your kids and this would have happened? I put myself in my mom's shoes. I thought, well, if my son would be doing that to my daughter, I would have felt really bad. I would have felt really guilty, like it's my fault, because I was angry at my mom, thinking I should have been able to come to you to protect me.
Yep.
Instead, as this helpless little girl, I couldn't even defend myself. I couldn't go to anybody to help me. Yep. I couldn't defend myself because I was helpless. You're this little rag doll, and he's doing whatever he wants because you don't know what else to do. Right. Mentally, you have no control. You're like a baby at 5 years old.
Yeah.
And
I seen Miriam Wagner said it's because they care way too much what other people think and not enough about what their child who is in pain thinks. And that's what exactly when you said earlier, your mom was angry at the first. That was, yes, she's angry at your brother. And then you go on to say she's angry at you. See how that makes me so sad, because she's angry at you and saying how he is such a good person. So it's so sad how the victim is always the one that's blamed, and they want the victim to shut up because it makes the Amish look bad. It ruins their name. That's why I don't care about the haters that got on there on some of the videos I've done so far with testimony. It doesn't matter about what they think. It's time to give the victims a voice, and it doesn't matter about that good Amish name anymore. It's about letting the victim come forward and share it. So, yeah, he's right what he says there. They don't care about the victim. It's about protecting
No, they don't. Because, yeah, and not even just that. They're not taught love. They're not taught nothing about love. They know nothing.
Yeah.
And it's like they can't even, how can they even love me or show me love through all this when they're so worried about what man-made thinks? And it's like they're so worried about what their culture, how it makes them look, to where it's unbelievable. We have no idea how many are probably still out there getting molested, raped, or whatever. And nobody's going to see it because they're all hush-hush. They're kept in their house.
Yep.
These little girls, and you're afraid to say anything. You are afraid to say anything.
Yep. It's always about protecting their name. You know, like your mom wanted to protect your brother. Oh, he's a good person. And she had less concern about you, the victim.
Yep. And he never once, man, even after they got married, they would come to our house. He'd come there and go there like nothing ever happened. Still today, that will not even say anything. He never admit, like nothing ever happened. And it took me years to forgive him. It took me, oh my gosh, a lot of praying. And I had to heal through all that because I hated him. Until I've heard somebody minister to me about, look, you got to forgive him. It's all a part of God. And she ministered to me about it. And when I saw it that way, it was like, you know what? Yes, because he is not going to keep me from my happiness anymore. I do have God. I have God's love. He is going to have to go in front of God eventually and face him for what he did to us.
Yep.
He's going to be the one. And I said, you know what? At that moment, I just gave him to God. I said, you know what? He's all yours. I forgive him. And at the moment, when I think back of how my mom wanted to offend him and be on his side instead of helping me, it was like, okay, whatever. You know what? You can help. You can just say whatever I want. And I look at him. He's got 11 kids. Now grandkids. I said, how do you not know he did not do that to his own little girls? We don't know because they're not going to talk.
Yeah. I know a lot of cases right now. That's exactly what's going on. The abusers were protected by the Amish church, and it's still happening today to their own kids.
That is a spiritual battle. That is a spiritual evil thing in them. Without God, you're not going to be able to quit it. You're not going to be able to get rid of it without God's forgiveness and God in your heart. That is the only way. And they don't even know him. They don't know how to accept him. They don't know how to go to Jesus and ask him to in your heart. They don't know how to accept. I never even understood what being saved meant.
They don't.
Never. No, they don't.
My community don't even believe in salvation.
No, they don't. One thing I've remembered since I've talked to you, I was thinking of this yesterday. After I had left the Amish, a few years later, my mom, it was like one of my cousins was really young and passed away. And my mom told me how she was standing there on top of this, next to this casket, looking at the little girl. She would have been like a teenager. She said how she wished that would have been me instead of leaving the Amish. She'd rather see me in that casket than see me because I left the Amish. And that, oh wow, that really hit me. Like, you'd rather I be dead? Because she doesn't want to, rather be dead than leaving the Amish. Like, it's so evil to leave the Amish.
Wow. I'm sorry to hear that. I tell you what, you got a deeper hurt than I've ever had to deal with. I'll tell you that right now. And for you to find forgiveness, and obviously you could only do that through the Lord Jesus Christ. I'm going to say this. I already know you being from an old order Amish community. That sex abuse there's no sex education. I already know that in my community, and I already talked to you on the phone. Since there's no education about sex, when sexual abuse and your brother started raping you, did you even understand what was happening? I mean, did you even understand any of it?
No, all you knew it was something bad, but you couldn't even, mentally, didn't even know what to do. Because put yourself as a little 5-year-old girl. And you knew it's like, because he threatened me. This is something bad. Do not even dare say anything to anybody. And so I never would. Again, and it's that big shame on you, like, oh my gosh, like, you feel so embarrassed. It's just filthy and just everything. You don't even afraid to say anything. And no, there was never any education on what it is about, or I knew it was bad, but that was pretty much it. Like,
right.
You can't say anything to anybody.
A lot of victims have talked to me actually got to the point where they thought it was normal because we're so young. Some of them actually thought it was normal, but you would say for the most part you knew it was wrong, it was bad.
Oh yes.
Okay.
Oh yes.
Now, you've been out for a while. Are you planning on maybe putting your story in a book, writing a book?
Oh yeah, I have started with it, but life got busy and I just kind of pushed it aside. I'm not giving up on that. I said, if at that moment, when that picture fell on me, that right there did it. That's it. I'm not shutting it up anymore. I'm writing a book. At that moment, I had my heart set to it. I am writing this book. If that book helps one little girl to get one child or one person to go through, to help that one person to go through what I have been through, that book would be priceless to me. And I'm just like, I can't wait to do it, wait to finish it. I have just not, it's gotten busy, so. Well, I want to continue doing it.
You're right. It'll help a lot of people, and it also helps you. It helps the victim, and it helps many others. So I appreciate you sharing it on here because this will help someone. I promise you. There's so many people that watch on here. Some of them cannot come forward like you have. They watch these videos, and it really does help them. It encourages them. It gives them strength. And most of all, it makes them feel like they're not alone no more.
Oh, that's a big thing. That is a big thing. You feel so, oh man. I was a little Amish girl to where if we would get company, I would hide behind things. They would be all sitting in the living room. I would go squeezing behind, hide in a corner. I would never be social never was social around anybody. Never. And I would always just hide behind, like it does not matter. That's how my aunt, after I left the Amish and I started talking to her, she starts questioning me. She knew there was something going on because of how I would hide behind, never talk to anybody. She knew there was something. And she never said anything to me until I started opening myself to her. She came out and told me that years later. Wow. That she figured there was something going on because I would not talk to anybody, would just hide, and I would never play with the little kids because of fear of there he is again. So it was just...
That's why you went into hiding a lot, because of that fear and that shame that you had. You didn't want to have it happen again, so you're going into hiding.
Yep.
And that's sad because they saw the signs. She admitted right there that she saw the signs in you, but as far as doing anything, nothing.
They're blinded. They are blinded by anything. They don't want to see anything like that. They don't want that stuff happening in their houses, but they don't want to talk about it. It's like this big shield in front of them. They can't see what's going on around them because they don't want to. Right. They want to believe they're these Christian Amish. They're so good. They think they're so like, oh, just dress nice and then we're good. That makes them look good because of what they wear. And after I left the Amish that first day, I burned my Amish clothes like that. I'm not ever putting these things on again. Never again.
Good for you. Good for you. Mine went in the dumpster with the trash man.
Oh, gosh. I couldn't wait to pitch mine. I'm like, that is it. I have freedom. Man, just to leave the Amish and not knowing. And when you don't even know how to use a microwave. I knew nothing after I left. Nothing.
Had a lot to learn.
Oh, yes. And you know what? I was willing to, too.
Yeah. What also strikes me is how you mentioned when you had a boyfriend. Mm-hmm. Now you have to get out. You know how many are in there right now? They have no way out. They have no boyfriend. Some of them make their daughter break up with the boyfriend because they're afraid they're going to talk.
Yep.
I've heard stories. And so you were able to escape because God put the right man in your place, in your path, and you were able to basically leave. If it wouldn't have been for him, do you think you'd have been able to get out at all at that time?
Probably not, because I would not have had anybody to give me that lift. And he came and picked me up in the middle of the night, and I took off. If it would not have been, unless I would have just walked and took off walking, because there's no way getting around. Like, there's no way getting anywhere. And at the timing, you have no phones. You have no friends, no English friends to really around the area, because we lived out in the boonies where it's all country area. So I would have had to just walk, and God knows where I would have ended. Otherwise there was nothing. So I probably could never have gotten away if it wouldn't have been for that.
Yeah. God provides.
Yes.
He figures out a way. I'm really just, I'm soaking it up how you prayed earlier in the video when you said you were seeking God. You grabbed that Bible and you said, there must be more. See, God knew you were seeking him. You were seeking truth because you've been done through hell. And now you're wanting to know more about him. And then he rescued you.
That was like, Lord, that was my final escape. The only thing was my escape was this Bible. You got to help me out of this. And it was just like every night, every day, day in and day out, I was in that Bible and just reading and studying and reading and crying to God. You got to get me out of here. You got to get me out of here. And it was like 2 weeks later is when we ended up leaving. And I'm getting out of there.
I love that, because when you go to him and you're desperate, he gets you out of there. He delivers. God delivers every time. Well, thank you very much for sharing. I wouldn't mind having you on again sometime. Thank you very much, because that's a powerful testimony. And I'm sorry you had to go through that. My heart breaks for you. But I'm really sorry for what happened to you. And I thank you very much for wanting to come on here and share it with my audience on here. So, is there anything else you can say to those victims? There's a lot of them that come forward that can't speak yet. To be able to maybe move past that point, is there any advice you can give them how to deal with that?
Oh my gosh. Somebody asked me that question, and I said, number one, you gotta fall on your knees and cry to God. No matter how much it hurts, he is going to hear you. Even though you feel like you have nobody else to talk to, you can talk and cry to God. He's going to be your only escape. And I am where I'm at because of him. I would never have made it this far if it would not have been for God. And talk. Ask him to put somebody in your life you can go to talk about everything. You got to talk it out, because your part of healing is to talk.
Yep, that's number one. When you're desperate and you talk to God, when you feel like you have nobody else to talk to,
God will hear you. He will, and he does hear you. He will put those people in your life you need. No matter how much you are trapped in your Amish house and wherever you're at, there's somebody else is going to come up next to you that he has properly for you.
Yeah. He restores those that are broken.
Yes, 100%.
Praise God. All right. Well, hey, thank you very much, Nancy, for hopping on here and sharing your story. And maybe we could do another one sometime. And, of course, the book, make sure you write that. Keep us updated so I can let everybody know if you do write a book.
Oh, yes.
I mean, heck, just to mention a few, there's been the Runaway Amish Girl, Beyond Brokenness, Behind Closed Doors, Leading My Amish, Tears of the Silence, and, of course, Behind Blue Curtains. And the latest one was Bringing Light into Darkness. I had that one on the other day.
Oh.
So let us know if you do get to where you're getting close to having your book written, and we'll hop on here and we'll talk about it.
Yes. Oh, yes, I will.
All right. Well, hey, thank you. Thanks again, and God bless you.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye-bye.